The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council stretched up into darkness, its ceiling lost among the stars visible through the transparent dome above. Thousands of alien representatives sat in rising tiers, their quiet murmurs echoing through the vast chamber. At the center of it all, High Counselor Gray stood at his podium, his tall, slender frame crowned by an ornate headdress that marked his status. "The laws of physics are not suggestions," Gray announced, his voice carrying across the chamber. "They are absolute." His four-fingered hand gestured to the holographic display floating above the chamber center. "Our finest minds have confirmed that faster-than-light travel cannot exceed 750 times light speed. This is not opinion. This is fact." In the lower tiers, where the newer species sat, Captain James Walker of Earth shifted in his seat. At 45 years old, with gray beginning to show at his temples, he had spent enough time among the stars to know when someone was being too certain about uncertainty. He glanced down at his data pad, reviewing the physics calculations that Earth's scientists had sent him. Furthermore, Gray continued, his silver skin reflecting the light from the holograms, any attempts to exceed this speed would result in the complete destruction of the vessel and its crew. "We have lost too many brave souls to such foolish attempts." Walker looked around at the other representatives. Most nodded in agreement, their various appendages and sensory organs all focused on their leader. The humans had only held their seat in the lower council for 15 years, ever since they'd proven they could achieve faster-than-light travel on their own. "Excuse me, High Counselor." Walker stood, his simple blue uniform standing out among the elaborate robes and natural coverings of the other species. 1,000 alien eyes turned to look at him. Gray's expression shifted to what Walker had learned was their equivalent of a condescending smile. "The representative from Earth has something to add." "Yes, sir." Walker kept his voice steady. "Our calculations suggest that the current limit is artificial. We believe we can exceed it safely." A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through the chamber. Gray's aide, a massive being named Rock, actually made a sound like grinding stones, their species' version of a chuckle. "Representative Walker," Gray said, "your species has barely mastered basic fold drive technology. You cannot possibly understand the complexities of." "We understand enough," Walker interrupted, earning more murmurs from the crowd. "And we can prove it." Gray's silver skin darkened slightly, a sign of irritation. "Human arrogance is becoming legendary among the stars. You think that in mere decades you can surpass what other species haven't achieved in millennia." Walker smiled. "Yes, sir, we do." "Then perhaps," Rock rumbled from his position beside Gray, "we should make this interesting." The massive being turned to Gray. "High Counselor, I suggest a challenge." Gray's skin lightened again. He was intrigued. "Proceed. Let any species that claims they can break the barrier prove it. If they succeed, they earn a seat on the High Council itself." The chamber erupted in excited chatter. A seat on the High Council was rare and precious. In 10,000 years, only 12 species had earned that honor. Gray raised his hands for silence. When the chamber quieted, he spoke. "A bold proposal, but I accept." He turned his gaze to Walker. "Representative, do you accept this challenge on behalf of humanity?" Walker thought of the messages from Earth scientists, of their excitement over their latest breakthroughs. He thought of humanity's history of breaking barriers, of proving the impossible possible. He thought of what this could mean for Earth's future among the stars. "We accept," he said firmly. "Then let it be recorded," Gray announced. "Humanity has one standard year to break the speed barrier. If they succeed, they will join the High Council. If they fail," he paused for effect, "they will surrender their FTL technology and return to their home system for the next 100 years. Walker's heart skipped a beat, but he kept his expression neutral. He hadn't expected those stakes, but he knew humanity wouldn't back down now. "The stakes are accepted," he said. As he sat down, Walker could feel the mix of pity and amusement from the aliens around him. Let them laugh, he thought. Humanity had always performed best when others said they couldn't do something. He touched his communicator, sending a simple message back to Earth. It's time. Let's make history. The Luna shipyard sprawled across the moon's sea of tranquility, its massive construction bays gleaming under Earth's light. In Meeting Room 7, Project Director Anna Roberts stood before a wall of screens showing the faces of Earth's best scientists and engineers. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, running a hand through her short gray hair, "we have 1 year to do the impossible. Let's get to work." Tom Miller, the lead engineer, stepped forward. His worn work boots and stained coveralls stood in stark contrast to Robert's crisp uniform. He tapped a button, and a hologram appeared in the room's center. "This is our new drive design," he said, pointing to the complex engine schematic floating before them. "We're calling it the Quantum Fold Drive. It doesn't just bend space, it folds it completely." One of the scientists on screen leaned forward. "That's impossible. The energy requirements alone would be impossible with standard technology," Miller interrupted. "But we're not using standard technology." He pressed another button, and the hologram changed to show a strange, crystalline structure. "This is what we found in the Arctic ice last year. It's a natural quantum crystal that can hold more energy than anything we've ever seen." Roberts watched the faces on screen. Some showed doubt, others excitement. She knew that look of excitement. It was the same look that had put humans on Mars, had built their first FTL ship, had earned them their place among the stars. "We've assembled teams at every major research facility," she continued. "The Council has sent observers to watch our progress. They think they're here to witness our failure. Let's prove them wrong." In the back of the room, a young engineer raised his hand. "What about the Council's spies? We know they're here somewhere." Miller smiled. "That's why we're building the ship in sections. No one team knows exactly what the others are doing. Only 5 people will know the complete design." The next few hours were a blur of technical discussions, project assignments, and security protocols. As the meeting wound down, Roberts noticed Miller staring at the hologram with an odd expression. "Something wrong?" she asked. "Not wrong," he replied. "Just thinking. You know how some of the older species say humans are too emotional, too unpredictable." Roberts nodded. She'd heard those complaints many times in council meetings. "Well, what if that's not our weakness?" Miller continued. "What if it's our strength? Look at this crystal structure. It responds to human brainwaves in ways we don't fully understand yet. What if our emotions, our consciousness itself, is the key to breaking the barrier?" Before Roberts could respond, alarms blared through the facility. Red lights flashed, and security teams rushed past the meeting room door. "Security breach in Section 12. A voice announced over the speakers. Unknown alien technology detected." Roberts and Miller exchanged looks. The Council's spies were already making their move. "Activate Protocol Omega," Roberts commanded into her communicator. Throughout the facility, false data began flooding all monitoring systems. The real designs were already safely stored in quantum-encrypted servers. "They're getting nervous already," Miller said with a grin. "We must be on the right track." Later that night, as the Earth rose over the lunar horizon, Roberts stood in the main construction bay. The framework of their ship was already taking shape, its unusual design unlike anything in the galaxy. Her communicator beeped. It was a message from Captain Walker at the Galactic Council. "The other species are placing bets on how badly we'll fail. The odds against us are 1,000,000 to 1. Roberts smiled and typed back. "Better odds than we usually get." She looked up at the skeletal framework of their future ship. They had named it Thunderchild, after a brave little ship from an old story that had fought against impossible odds. 1 year, she whispered to herself. 1 year to prove what humanity can do. Behind her, the teams of engineers and scientists worked through the night, their determination glowing as bright as the Earth above them. In offices and laboratories across the planet, thousands more worked toward the same goal. The race to break the universe's speed limit had begun, and humanity had no intention of losing. 3 months into the project, Tom Miller stood in the Thunderchild's engine room, his hands deep in the quantum crystal array. Strange blue light pulsed through the crystals, casting moving shadows on the walls. The ship was taking shape faster than anyone had expected, but something wasn't quite right. "Run the test again," he called to his team. The crystals hummed, their energy readings climbing higher and higher. Then, like before, the power suddenly dropped. "Same result, sir," one of the engineers reported. "We can't keep the quantum field stable." Miller wiped sweat from his forehead, leaving a smudge of grease. In the background, someone's music player was softly playing old rock songs. He was about to order another test when he noticed something odd on the readings. "Wait," he said. "Look at the field strength. It's changing with the music." The team gathered around the monitors. Sure enough, the quantum field pulsed in time with the beat of the song. Miller turned to the nearest engineer. "Turn it up," he ordered. As the music grew louder, the crystal's glow intensified. The energy readings began to stabilize. "That's impossible," said one of the alien observers who always watched their work. "Sound waves cannot affect quantum fields." Miller grinned. "Maybe your sound waves can't." Up in the control room, Anna Roberts was dealing with a different kind of problem. The holographic displays showed their latest simulation results, and they weren't good. "The Council's scientists say the ship will tear itself apart," her assistant reported. "They're claiming our design violates 6 different laws of physics." Roberts watched the simulation again. The virtual Thunderchild accelerated past the speed barrier, then broke apart in a spectacular explosion of light. "What they don't understand," she said, "is that we're not trying to break the laws of physics. We're just reading them differently." She opened a communication channel to Miller's team. "Tom, how are we doing with the field stability?" "You're not going to believe this," his excited voice came back. "It's music. Human music affects the quantum field. The crystals respond to the patterns in it. And that's not all. They respond even more strongly to human brainwaves." Roberts felt a smile spread across her face. Of course. That was why no other species had discovered this. They all thought pure logic and mathematics were the only way to understand the universe. They had forgotten about art, about emotion, about the power of the human mind to shape reality. In the ship's construction bay, workers were attaching the outer hull plates. The Thunderchild was beautiful in an odd way, its shape unlike any other ship in the galaxy. Where alien ships were all smooth curves or sharp angles, this one looked almost organic, like a sea creature made of metal and crystal. "Time for a full power test," Roberts announced over the facility's speakers. "All non-essential personnel, clear the area." The alien observers hurried to their safe viewing positions, their data recorders ready to document what they were sure would be another failure. They had seen the simulations. They knew this couldn't work. Miller stood at the main engineering console, his hands hovering over the controls. Roberts watched from the control room above. Throughout the facility, humans held their breath. "Starting quantum field generation," Miller reported. "Music integration online. Neural interface active." The ship's crystals began to glow, brighter and brighter. Human brainwave patterns, carefully recorded and amplified, pulsed through the quantum matrix. And underneath it all, the steady beat of human music provided the rhythm that held everything together. The power readings climbed past all previous records. Warning lights flashed on alien instruments, but the human equipment showed everything working perfectly. "Field is stable," Miller announced, his voice filled with wonder. "We're ready for the first real test." Roberts looked at the readings, then at the beautiful ship they had built. In 3 months, they had done what the Council had said was impossible. Now they just had to prove it would actually work. "Schedule the unmanned test flight for tomorrow," she ordered. "Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do." As the test preparations began, no one noticed the small device hidden in the ship's quantum core, waiting to activate at just the right moment. The viewing room was packed with engineers, scientists, and alien observers as Thunderchild prepared for its first unmanned test flight. Through the massive windows, the ship gleamed under the spotlights, its quantum crystals pulsing with soft blue light. "All systems are green," Miller reported from the control station. "Starting quantum field generation." Roberts stood at the main window, her hands clasped behind her back. Everything they had worked for came down to this moment. "Beginning launch sequence," the computer announced. T-minus 60 seconds. The ship's engines hummed to life. Energy readings climbed steadily as the test pilot program initiated. In orbit above them, sensor satellites prepared to track the ship's speed. T-minus 30 seconds. Miller watched his displays intently. Something didn't feel right. The quantum field harmonics were slightly off, but within acceptable ranges. T-minus 10 seconds. 9. 8. Roberts noticed it too. A tiny fluctuation in the power curve. 7. 6. 5. "Wait," Miller started to say. "There's something." 4. 3. 2. The quantum crystals suddenly flared brilliant white. Warning alarms screamed across every console. 1. "Abort," Roberts shouted. "Abort the..." Thunderchild exploded. The blast rocked the entire facility. Emergency shields snapped into place just in time to protect the viewing room. When the light faded, only scattered debris remained where humanity's fastest ship had been. Silence fell over the control room. On the main screen, a message flashed from the Galactic Council. As predicted, humanity's arrogance exceeds their understanding. Miller stared at his console in disbelief. "This isn't possible. We tested everything. Every component. Every system." Roberts was already moving. "Seal the facility," she ordered. "No one leaves until we know what happened." Hours later, in a secured laboratory, Miller stood over the remains of one of the quantum crystals. His hand shook as he held up a tiny device, barely visible to the naked eye. "Sabotage," he said quietly. "Someone placed quantum destabilizers throughout the crystal matrix. They were programmed to activate at the moment of launch." Roberts looked at the device through a microscope. Alien technology. Advanced alien technology. Way beyond anything they've shown us before. Miller's voice was bitter. "They never expected us to find it. They thought we'd just assume we failed." Word of the disaster spread quickly. Across the galaxy, alien species watched recordings of the explosion, nodding wisely at humanity's failure. Messages of mock sympathy poured in from the Council. But in the Luna shipyards, something else was happening. Roberts called an emergency meeting. When everyone was seated, she stood at the front of the room, her face determined. "They think they've beaten us," she said. "They think we'll give up. But they've made 3 big mistakes." She held up one finger. "First, they showed us that they're afraid of what we might achieve. They wouldn't have sabotaged us otherwise." A second finger joined the first. "Second, they've revealed that they have technology they've been hiding from us. Technology we can now detect and guard against." She raised a third finger. "And third, most importantly, they forgot what humans do when someone tells us we can't do something." Miller stood up. "We rebuild," he said firmly. "We rebuild," Roberts agreed. "But this time, we do it differently. No more observers, no more open doors. We build in complete secrecy." Around the room, heads nodded. Determination replaced despair in every face. "The Council has given us 9 more months," Roberts continued. "They think we'll spend it admitting defeat. Instead, we're going to use every second to prove them wrong." She pressed a button, and a new ship design appeared in the air before them. It was similar to Thunderchild, but different in crucial ways. "We already have the solution," Miller added. "We just need to protect it better. And maybe," he smiled slightly, "add a few surprises of our own." As the meeting ended and the team dispersed to begin their work anew, Roberts looked out at the debris field being cleared away. The council thought they had witnessed humanity's greatest failure. They were about to witness humanity's greatest comeback instead. 2 months after the disaster, Roberts sat in her office staring at brain scan data from 100 different test subjects. Something about the patterns kept catching her attention, but she couldn't quite grasp what it was. The door chimed. "Come in," she called, not looking up from her screens. Miller walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You've been staring at those scans for 12 hours straight," he said, placing 1 cup on her desk. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the display. "Every time we run the quantum field tests, these brain patterns show up in our engineers, every single time." Miller leaned closer. "Those look like the same frequencies we saw in the music tests." Roberts suddenly sat up straight, her coffee forgotten. "Tom, what if we've been thinking about this all wrong? We've been trying to use recorded brain patterns to stabilize the field. But what if we need live ones?" Miller finished, catching on. "A direct neural interface with the ship." They looked at each other, the same idea forming in both their minds. "Get everyone in the test lab," Roberts ordered. "Now." An hour later, Miller sat in a specially modified chair, neural sensors attached to his head. In front of him, a smaller version of the quantum drive hummed softly. "Ready?" Roberts asked from behind the safety shield. Miller nodded. "Start the field generation." The crystals began to glow. On the monitors, Miller's brainwaves appeared alongside the quantum field patterns. At first, nothing special happened. Then Miller closed his eyes and thought about flying. He imagined moving faster than light, crossing the galaxy in moments. On the screens, his brainwaves shifted. The quantum field suddenly stabilized perfectly. "That's impossible," one of the engineers whispered. "No," Roberts said, smiling. "That's human consciousness directly affecting quantum space. We don't just observe quantum states like other species. We can influence them." The next few weeks were a blur of activity. They installed neural interface systems throughout the new ship. They tested different mental states, different thought patterns, different emotions. They discovered that pilots who dreamed of flying, who truly loved space travel, created the strongest quantum fields. Then Mike Cooper walked into Roberts' office. "I hear you need test pilots," he said without preamble. Roberts looked up at the tall, quiet man. Cooper had been flying experimental ships for 20 years. He held the human record for fastest solar system crossing. "This isn't like other test flights," she warned. "The neural interface connects you directly to the quantum field. Whatever happens to the field happens to your mind." Cooper nodded. "I've read the reports. I also read that you need someone who really loves flying." He smiled slightly. "I haven't kept my feet on the ground for more than a week since I was 18. The first tests exceeded all expectations. Cooper's mind merged with the ship's systems like they were made for each other. The quantum field didn't just stabilize. It grew stronger than they had ever seen before. "It's like, I can feel the space around the ship," Cooper reported after one test. "I can sense where the folds need to be, how to shape them." In the final test before the official trial, they pushed the ship to its limits in secret. "Quantum field at maximum stability," Miller reported. "All systems green. Beginning acceleration," Cooper said calmly. "I can feel it. It wants to go faster." The ship's speed climbed. 700 times light speed. 720. 750. They passed the barrier like it wasn't even there. 800 times light speed. Someone shouted, "Field is stable." Roberts watched the numbers climb higher. They had done it. They had broken the unbreakable barrier. When Cooper landed, his hands were shaking but his eyes were bright. "It's more than just going fast," he said. "When you're connected to the field, you can feel the whole universe. It's beautiful." Roberts looked at Miller. "Are we ready for the official trial?" Miller nodded. "The council won't know what hit them." "Good," Roberts said, "because I'm tired of keeping this quiet. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can really do." None of them could stop smiling. In a few days, the Council would learn that their impossible barrier wasn't just breakable. It wasn't even close to the true limit of human potential. The day of the official trial arrived with all the grandeur the Galactic Council could muster. Hundreds of ships filled the space around the test course, their observers ready to witness what they believed would be humanity's final failure. High Counselor Gray's voice echoed through all communication channels. This trial will determine if humanity can exceed 750 times light speed. If they fail, they will return to their solar system in shame. In Thunderchild's cockpit, Mike Cooper ran through his pre-flight checks. The neural interface hummed as it connected to his mind. "How are you feeling?" Roberts asked through the comm. "Like I'm about to change history," Cooper replied, his voice steady. He could already feel the quantum field responding to his thoughts, the crystals pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. Miller's voice came next. "Remember, they're watching for any sign of cheating. We can only use the power systems they can see." Cooper smiled. "They have no idea what they're looking for." The countdown began. On every ship and station, aliens gathered around their viewing screens. Many had placed bets on how spectacular the human failure would be. Launch in 10, 9, 8. In the control room, Roberts and Miller exchanged glances. They had hidden their true breakthrough well. The aliens were looking for advanced technology, for some mechanical trick. They would never think to look for something as simple as a human mind connected to quantum space. 7, 6, 5. Cooper closed his eyes, feeling the ship become an extension of himself. The quantum field wrapped around them like a cocoon of pure energy. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderchild moved. The ship accelerated so smoothly that at first, the alien observers didn't realize what they were seeing. Their instruments showed impossible numbers. 700 times light speed, Miller called out. 720, 740. The barrier approached. On the Council's flagship, Gray leaned forward, waiting to see the human ship tear itself apart. 750, Miller announced. Passing the barrier in 3, 2, 1. Thunderchild shot through the barrier like it wasn't there. 800 times light speed. Miller's voice was triumphant. 900, 1,000. Silence fell across every alien vessel. It was impossible. Their most basic understanding of physics said this could not happen. Cooper's voice was calm, going for maximum. The ship responded to his thoughts, the quantum field expanding, folding space in ways no alien had ever imagined possible. The speedometer kept climbing. 1,100, 1,200 times light speed. In the council chamber, the betting systems crashed. Gray's silver skin had turned almost white with shock. Cooper guided Thunderchild through the entire test course, maintaining speeds that rewrote the laws of physics. The ship moved with impossible grace, proving this was no fluke, no lucky accident. When Thunderchild finally came to rest at the finish line, its hull wasn't even warm. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then every human channel erupted in cheers. Official speed recorded at 1,200 times light speed. Roberts announced formally. The barrier is broken. Humanity has won the challenge. The Council's observation team swarmed the ship, searching for hidden technology, for signs of cheating. They found nothing they could understand. The neural interface looked like simple medical equipment to their scanners. The quantum crystals appeared to be normal navigation sensors. Cooper stepped out of his ship, looking fresh and calm. An alien scientist rushed up to him. "How?" the alien demanded. "How is this possible?" Cooper just smiled. "We stopped trying to force space to do what we wanted," he said. "We learned to dance with it instead." In the council chamber, Gray had no choice but to make the announcement. "Humanity has succeeded," he said, his voice stiff. "They have earned their place on the High Council." Roberts and Miller stood with Cooper, watching the celebrations begin. Already, ships from other species were approaching, their crews eager to learn the human secret. "Should we tell them?" Miller asked quietly. Roberts shook her head. "Let them figure it out. Sometimes the hardest part of discovery is realizing that you've been thinking about the problem all wrong." Behind them, Thunderchild's quantum crystals pulsed softly, still in perfect harmony with its pilot's mind, ready to dance through the stars again. 1 month after Thunderchild's historic flight, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different. The human delegation no longer sat in the lower tiers. Instead, they occupied one of the 12 high council pods, their new status impossible to ignore. Captain Walker stood at the podium where Gray had once proclaimed human failure inevitable. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. "Humanity is pleased to share our findings with the galactic community," Walker announced. "Our breakthrough belongs to all species who wish to reach for the stars." In the audience, Roberts and Miller exchanged small smiles. The council had expected humans to guard their secret jealously, just as they themselves hoarded their advanced technology. Once again, humanity had surprised them. The presentation began. On the massive holographic display, Thunderchild specs appeared, along with complete technical documentation. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the aliens realized what they were seeing. "As you can see," Miller explained, stepping up to the podium, "the key was never about raw power or complex technology. It was about understanding that consciousness itself is a fundamental force in the universe." The alien representatives muttered among themselves. Many looked skeptical. Others seemed offended at the suggestion that emotions and thoughts could affect quantum physics. "We invite any species to test our findings," Roberts added, joining her colleagues. "Our neural interface technology is simple to adapt to any brain structure. All you need is a pilot who truly loves to fly, who dreams of dancing with the stars." High Counselor Gray, who had been unusually quiet since humanity's victory, finally spoke. "You are suggesting that our failure to break the barrier was because we lacked emotion." "Not at all," Cooper said, walking onto the stage. His quiet presence drew every eye. "You have emotions, dreams, and consciousness just like we do. You just never thought to use them. You were so focused on pure logic that you forgot about the power of imagination." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species immediately volunteered to test the human method. Others insisted it couldn't be that simple. A few demanded to know what humanity's real secret was. Roberts activated one final hologram. It showed a new ship under construction at the Luna shipyards, its design even more advanced than Thunderchild's. "While we're happy to share our current technology," she said, "humanity hasn't stopped dreaming. This is our next project. Our calculations suggest we can reach 2,000 times light speed." Silence fell over the chamber again. Then, surprisingly, Gray began to laugh. Not his usual condescending laugh, but a genuine sound of delight. "Now I understand," he said, his silver skin shimmering with amusement. "You didn't just break the speed barrier. You broke our assumptions about what was possible. Perhaps," he paused thoughtfully, "perhaps that is why the creators chose to seed consciousness throughout the galaxy. Not just to experience the universe, but to shape it." Walker smiled. "We have a saying on Earth. The universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it is stranger than we can imagine." One by one, the other High Council members stood. They had maintained their positions for thousands of years by recognizing when the galaxy was changing, and it was definitely changing now. "Let it be recorded," Gray announced, "that humanity has not just earned their place among us. They have taught us a lesson we badly needed to learn. The age of pure logic is ending. The age of imagination has begun." As the chamber filled with approving sounds from 1,000 different species, Roberts looked at her team. Miller was already sketching new engine designs on his datapad. Cooper was talking with alien pilots, explaining how it felt to merge with the quantum field. Walker was accepting congratulations from a dozen different species. Humanity had done more than win a challenge. They had changed the galaxy forever. "There's just one thing I don't understand," Miller said quietly to Roberts. Why did they call it the impossible speed barrier when they were so close to breaking it themselves? Roberts watched as more species gathered around Cooper, eager to learn about the mental connection to quantum space. Sometimes, she said, the only thing holding us back is our belief in limitations. Humanity's greatest strength might be that we never really believe in the impossible. Above them, through the Council's transparent dome, the stars beckoned. And now, thanks to human imagination and determination, they were closer than ever before. The real journey was just beginning.